So you're happy?
A girl worth writing to is hard to find.
Congratulations for the show. I haven't finished yet, but I was watching, till a couple of
I heard
minutes
you got
ago,
to
and
episode 3 and you stopped. Right?
stop it. It's the best.
Once I'm gone, that's it. Not doing
That's it.
anymore.
I agree. No spoilers. No spoilers. Like I was feeling in the middle of this war, and as a fact, I also work with cinema, and I filmed a film in Italy about the Brazilian, participation in the Second World War, and there were Brazilian pilots as well. So this pilot myth is a big myth in wars, and also for Brazilians. So for you both, how was for you, to portray a kind of a myth, war heroes, and at the same time giving them this human factor. I know it sounds cliche, but I think in war films,
Yeah.
this is the biggest challenge, isn't it?
Yeah, I
Definitely.
don't think they know they're heroes in the moment, that they're doing heroic acts, and I don't think it's something that they know in the moment. I think that comes after always. But for me, yeah, it was just, it was such a learning process for me, and a process where I kind of got to appreciate these young lads, and who they left behind, and the kind of unpredictability to it all, of the uncertainty of not knowing what lies ahead, and where technology and that we have these days, that we're so much more advanced, and we can kind of prep and stuff like that. But with this, it was just you're going into the storm kind of, without a kind of a
Yeah, I mean, it was eye-opening to like really understand how young they were and the responsibilities that they faced, and how they kind of dropped everything at very like quick. There was no kind of real like decision making. It was like, we got to do this for the greater good and for our country, and to bring an element of like the heroicness of the tasks that they've faced, but then also balancing it out with the humanizing them, and showing that they were these young men, and as brave as they were, and as heroic as they were, they faced a lot of personal challenges on a daily basis in so many different aspects. And I think all of the cast members do such a good job of that, and I think it's a really important kind of part of the series, is just like seeing them for like these real people that they were, and understanding them as individual personalities, and not just these like heroic pilots, because they were so much more than that as well.
You were the first pilot assigned to the 100th.
Me and Buck Levin.
You are in charge of 35 planes and 350 air crewmen.
You're saying, Barry, about the technology, and I was like overwhelmed, like it was like a math at school, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's crazy, isn't it? Sometimes was just instinct, and I think it's the beauty also of the production, isn't it? It's a huge production, but at the same time, the craft, and the instinct of you all. It's on
and it brings it back slowly to how they communicate with one another, and they didn't get to see the results of what was happening up there online, or they didn't get to feel that effect, and that could have really kind of damaged how they thought going ahead as well, and in the anticipation of it all. But it was more like they had a mission to do, and the full wrath of it, they'd see their friends leave and probably not come back, and that was some stuff that they had to deal with as well. But it's the lack of technology as well, like stuff like that.
And what's crazy to think is like the Norden bomb site, which was what they were using to be able to do precision bombing, which was like that was like a new piece of technology then. Do you know what I mean? And that was the reason that they could carry out these missions during the day, even though that meant that they were succumbing to a lot more fatalities. At the same time, that was something which was like a new in technology then, and now fast forward to where we are today, and you look back and you see the bits in the planes, and you see like kind of how brutal it is, the freezing cold, so many ways that you could lose your life or get injured, and it wasn't just about being shot down. There was so many other aspects to it.
The other guys that I was watching, the show till like 5 minutes ago, and I'm still in the middle of the battle. And just as a fact, I also work with films, and I filmed a film about the Brazilian, troops in Italy, in the Second World War.
Wow.
But it was snowy, and I was wondering, how did you feel about being there, living like a soldier for a couple of time, because in Brazil we have a small planes where P-47, like small, not like the B-17, one engine and flying very low, but the B-17 is like a crazy machine, isn't it?
Well, Flavia, I mean, I gotta say, I didn't know anything about Brazil's involvement, so thank you for telling me. I'm going to do some research on that. And similarly, I didn't know anything about this story either. I didn't know anything about the Bloody Hundredth, and I didn't know what these guys went through and the severity of the journey that they went on, and going up in these B-17s, being left to fend for themselves was. That war zone was the most volatile war zone ever, and
It was really dangerous.
yeah, and 77% of these guys were either killed or ended up in a POW. That's something that I learned too, and what I love about this show is that we see that and we experience that. Like you said, you just were in the war zone, you were just in the middle of it, and it was really a massive experience. But then you also get to go back to England and you get to see how these guys deal with their grief of losing their friends. One of the missions, 27 planes go up, only 11 land. That's 160 friends gone in one mission, and the severity of that is so extreme. And I love watching our characters go on this journey and the effects that these experiences have on their soul and their body and their minds, and that's, I think, is so unique about our show.
It's crazy, what they were doing there.
Yeah. I mean, I completely agree with everything that Callum said. I mean, it really is. The statistics were so harrowing, and the bravery that was necessary for all of them to continually go up there is just really unfathomable. And so I felt immensely privileged to be a small part of bringing their story to life. We won't go without a fight.
I know it's a very cliche, question, but why do you think we still need to tell this kind of stories? Besides a brotherhood between all of you is the power. I think it's the engine of the film. But why do you think we still need war movies?
Well, I'm someone that's been fascinated by World War II for a long time. And me and my grandfather went to World War II. He was 16 years old. And I know a lot of my history, of the British history and the British stories. And I had no idea about the 100th. I really didn't. And so, I think it's important that we honor these men and their stories and their journeys and their legacies. These people are real life heroes. These people are the people that saved the world for us. And so we have to honor them and show the atrocities that they went through and the adversities that they faced and how they overcome them. And being part of a legacy like Band of Brothers in the Pacific is truly an honor. And yeah, to serve them and their stories was a privilege.
Do you agree, Austin, as an American?
Yeah, absolutely, I do.
How do you feel about war movies, to create an American, mind?
Well, I mean, war movies in general, I think that in a way, I always think about any film, any story, any novel. It's somehow, holding a mirror up to nature. It's teaching humanity about itself in some way, and so in a way, war has a way of a war film. It's showing the worst of humanity and the best of humanity at the same time, and so we're seeing these extremities of the worst and the best, and so in that encapsulates so much of humanity.
All that we do, day in, day out, does something to a guy, doesn't it? We're here to fight the monsters, the things these people are capable of.
I was telling Barry, that was watching, the show 5 minutes ago, and I'm still, in the war.
Yeah. Well, you're safe now.
Yeah, hopefully, yeah. And it's very noisy, and I was, almost, feeling, the panic that you feel, especially the navigator. Like I think I would be a navigator if I was, where I
Oh,
love
wait.
navigating.
Are you
Yeah.
are you clever?
Maybe a little bit, but I like graphics. I
Oh, you
like
do?
math.
Okay, you'd
Yeah,
be good
I'm
at it.
so into math.
I find it so difficult trying to learn them and navigate them, ironically. But you would have been a good navigator.
Yeah, I'm old, and I'm from the time that we use, real maps in the
Yeah.
car. I was always helping my parents, to
Oh, wow.
navigate. You know what I mean? Like that. Maybe that's why I love navigation. So.
That's so sweet.
And how was for you both, like, because we were discussing that the fact that they didn't know, no soldier or major or lieutenant anyway knows he's a hero. Oh, he would be a hero. Oh, he's gonna die, anything. So how did you feel about, like portraying this so important, man? Like Rosenthal is a big lawyer as well, isn't it? Like, how was for you, like the human factor and the war hero factor?
Yeah, I mean, we were able to draw on so much of the history of these guys, and in my case, there were interviews, and in his, I got to meet my character's son Dan,
Oh, cool.
and learn about his life and all aspects of it. How he was an athlete, what kind of music he liked. I mean, all of that. It just helps me so much with my job of portraying him, bringing it to life. And then, as you say, in the war effort, those acts of courage. I mean, it's just my job to sort of like to get serious about what that cost was for him, and to try and to do justice to his courage.
I think we may be done. We are gonna sit here and take it. We're gonna stick with our mission as long as we can fly.
Yeah, no, totally. I think like what we tried to do from the beginning is don't think of it as like a war hero. Think of this just as a human being who's been called on an extraordinary circumstance. He's been asked to do something, and he's accepted the challenge. So I never think it was like, these lads didn't go to war each day. They didn't wake up in the morning going, I'm a hero. I'm a hero. They just were doing what needed to be done. And when you ask so much of them, when you tell them that they're a hero, when you see interviews of people saying, thank you for your service or whatever, they say, I just did what needed to be done. And I think that's just what we tried to play in it.
Lord, guard and guide the men who fly through the great spaces of the sky.
Do you think you feel like actors in the same way, in a way, like you don't think, oh my God, I'm so good, I'm gonna perform. You just, go into, like, it's like a tunnel. I could feel like going to war or acting, like, or doing your job. You know what I mean? Like a very deep sense.
I think I'm so good. I think I'm great. I think every day I wake up and go to work and I think, wow, I am amazing.
Yeah.
No, I think, yeah, it's like anything, you just try and do your job and try and do it as best as you can.
Been in complete and total air superiority. That's the mission.